padding. Oh yeah. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I did get the flange for the downpipe. You know, I actually ordered it 3 different times from 3 different vendors, and they end up canceling it for whatever reason. They're saying the warehouse is out of stock. So I'm guessing maybe the warehouse is closed down or whatever it may be. With this, I ended up paying about $19 a piece, which is a lot more than I want to spend. I mean, the quality is a lot better. You know, you got the basically you got the inner lip and the outer lip as well. The V-Van itself is actually in a lot better shape than the cheap ones. But at the same time, at $19 a piece, I'm not sure if that's worth the V-Vans. But I got it, so that's good. But the problem is, I actually didn't plan out my intercooler stuff that well. So what I mean by I didn't plan that out well is I didn't buy enough parts to make it complete. So this is going to be a 3-inch outlet. It'll go all the way this way. It'll go under there, come back out, make a U-turn somewhere here, and go back to the throttle body. Now this is about, I believe it's 3.9 inch. They make like some weird coupler for that. But it'll basically do a turn down like this and come out and then do like a 180. Okay, so I'll make a U-turn. But if I don't build that first, if I build this and I don't have enough clearance to run that, it'll be a bigger problem for me at the end. So what I'm going to do is actually order that first and plan everything else in the intercooler side before I can finish out the downpipe. You know, I was waiting a long time for the flanges. The intercooler is going to take priority for today's project. In reality, to me it doesn't really matter which one goes first, intercooler or the downpipe. I mean, I do want to put this on right away because, I don't know, it just looks cool. Why not? So it kind of works out that way. Alright, so let's get started and let's talk planning. What I'm kind of thinking is kind of mark up my bumper where it's going to get cut, because I did a measurement on this once. Let's see here. Since this is a solid 4-inch, I'll basically be needing about, let me see, let's say if I cut it there, it'll extend out just about this much. So it'll end up getting, you know, getting to the bumper with this much clearance right there, talking about extending here. So I know for a fact that I will need to cut the bumper in the front. I won't cut it in the top. I guess it'll just be bolting to the aluminum. So what I'm kind of thinking of doing, mark it up now, mark up where the center is for the aluminum in the bottom, take it apart and leave the aluminum bumper, and then start cutting things up that way. Alright, so with the bumper removed, first thing I've noticed is it looks like I actually cut a little bit too much aluminum here and not really that straight, so I'll probably end up having to fix that as well. This side I cut way too much, so future note, next time, if I ever do, or if it ever is the next time, I'll remove the bumper and actually leave the aluminum, then cut from that instead of doing it the other way around where I have both, and yeah. So here's the trim version of the bumper. It's pretty light now as it is. There's barely anything on here though. So anyway, gonna go ahead and test fit it and see how well it works out. Huh, what about that? Just about 2 lines under 2 inches, and on the other side it's a little bit over, so about 3 lines under 2 inches, which is pretty close. We have 1/16 of an inch difference. That's gonna be hardly noticeable, especially with the bumper on and everything else. Alright, now the bottom piece, I can't even find it right here. Now the bottom mount, I'm not too sure how I'm going to do that because there's nowhere to really put it. You know, the engine is not solid mounted, so rubber mounted, that means it's gonna have a lot of movement, so I can't mount this in there because then I just feel like it's gonna get ripped up. I think this is one of those things where I should have just gone solid mount in the engine bay, that way everything else I can just solid mount. Ah, shoot. It's kind of too late now, so what to do. Alright guys, here it is, a little bit more cleaned up than before. Now I did figure out how I'm going to mount the two little bolts that goes right here for the intercooler. I'm a little nervous about this one because I've never mounted an intercooler like this before. I only saw it one time on the internet. I was like, oh, that's a kind of interesting way to do it, but I guess, you know, it could work. So I guess can't put this off any longer. What I'm going to do is basically grind this down. So you can see I already put a line up there. I'm going to take off the paint, and then I'm basically going to weld that intercooler into that bumper. Again, pretty nervous about this part because it's kind of like a permanent solution. You know, there's no going back after this. I can't just all of a sudden, oh, okay, I want to change the intercooler. To do that, I got to cut it out of the bumper and put a new one in. But imagine, at this size, the only next intercooler I can go with is basically a 5-inch core. I don't think that's worth the hassle, you know, an extra inch core. Versus that, I'll probably just dump E85 or put more water methanol injection or something. Alright guys, kind of just putting this off, but let's do it. Sorry guys, sorry about the color thing. I somehow forgot to put it on auto correction. That's what I'm working with right now. This is what you get for trying to learn to weld aluminum and building a project at the same time. So I don't need to, or I really don't need to weld the whole thing all the way around, but I'm going to because this is going to give me some practice with aluminum. I'm already just kind of destroying this intercooler to begin with, so might as well get some practice out of it. Now the challenge is, it is, you know, it's a pretty wide gap. I was kind of thinking I should have done a better job of not making it such a big gap, but it's kind of too late. So I'm gonna take it off the car. Should be pretty solid right now. Yeah, it's on there pretty good. Gonna get off the car, put it on the table so I can use the foot controls a little bit better than, you know, being down there and trying to weld and all that stuff. Okay. All right, guys, got it off the car. I'm gonna have two goals in this project, at least for this one. The first one is to actually get it mounted and not, you know, fall off the car. The second one is actually from when I started to weld this to the last bead, I'm hoping I get to improve a little bit more. From the very first bead that I've laid here to the last one. Now keep in mind I do have to kind of fill the metal, so that's gonna make it a little bit more complicated. But let's see what we can do. Alright guys, all done. Now this corner was a pain to fill. There was a big gap in between. I should have just put some aluminum or something. But anyway, I tried to fill it. Horrible. Did a horrible job doing it. But both corners. So, how well did I improve, I guess is the question. Well, that's from the beginning. That's from the beginning. This is towards the end. Granted, this pass was a lot easier up until right here because this was also a big gap. But you guys can see an improvement. That just looks like a blob of something, as well as that side. But check this out. Right around here is when I started to get a little bit better rhythm and, you know, starting to get a little bit more control. It still doesn't look like anything that you know, it still doesn't look as nice as it should be, but you know, a lot better than having no stacks, which is right there, to an actual something of a stack. Okay. So I can imagine more practice will probably turn into a little bit more of that moving forward and less of that. I also learned something new. Apparently my AC balance was way too high, so I was melting out my tungsten for the first few tries there. Next part is I'm gonna wait for this to cool off a little bit. It's actually pretty hot. Let me see. This is 106, 132, 114, 107. Okay, so it's pretty hot right now. I'm gonna let it cool off for a little bit, and then we'll get right to it. Alright, so this piece is cooled off already. Now all I'm doing now is I'm going to go test for leaks. So I have that blocked off. This one is going to be feeding into the compressor, and I'm thinking 20 psi should probably be good. Now I do have a little bit of a problem. My fittings here, they tend to leak a little bit. So all I'm going to do is kind of fill up the whole lines and then have to use both hands to kind of push it together. So yeah, let's go do that. Alright, so if you don't have a leak in your lines, you just plug it all up and then listen for air. But since I do have a leak in my lines, all I'm going to do is make sure that these things are pushed in so it doesn't leak here. And then make sure this one doesn't leak. Okay, so at 20 psi, see here, there, the whole system is basically pressurized now. Now time to listen for some leaks. Alright, doesn't sound like there's anything leaking. So I'm going to jump it up to 30 psi. I need the better ends in here. This thing is just going straight through. Okay. Well, anyway, test it at 20. 30 I'm not able to test because of that, but it doesn't sound like it's leaking anywhere else when it starts to pressurize. So I think we're good. Welds aren't the best. I'll probably end up grinding them down anyway just to get a little bit more clearance on the bumper. But let's go ahead and mount this in there. Alright, that is it. We are done with this episode. One thing I gotta note, I've never mounted an intercooler to the bumper before, and I gotta say, this is pretty solid mount. I've never had an intercooler mounted this solid. What I mean is, check this out. That thing is on there good, which is a good thing, and I could see that being a bad thing. If I scrape the intercooler, that's gonna really hurt. Alright guys, so that is it. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you guys liked the video, and I'll see you guys next time.